views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us for yet another season of Perspectives. And coming up, we move into 2020 by focusing on one of the biggest topics of 2019, immigration. We're going to give you an update on some of the current administration's new policies, what lies ahead for DACA. Plus, we'll also discuss birth tourism and birthright citizen. Stick around. Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime, starts now.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Let 'em know. And hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime. And of course, we thank you for watching Perspectives. You can watch us every week here on BronxNet's Channel 67, of course, Verizon Fios, and then also on the net at bronxnet.org. We also encourage you to stay connected to us via all of our social media platforms. And you can also stay connected with me at my professional page on Facebook, Daren C. Jaime. And you can get connected, share your perspective, and then also find out some things that are happening up and coming, and then also a little inspiration as well. Well, on this particular show, President Donald Trump was elected on pledges to take extraordinary actions to curb illegal immigration and prevent terrorism. In 2019, we saw a wave of controversial immigration policies like separation of children from their parents who were apprehended at the border. But the question is, what are we going to see in 2020 as it relates to immigration? Joining me now to give us his perspective is the Director of Legal Services at Bronx Works, Mr. Arturo Lopez. We've had him here before, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome. First of all, congratulations on a new position, and Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you very much, and it's great to be back.
Good to have you back. And so as we talk about 2020, obviously, New Year, we know a lot of laws are taking place in New York State. But when it comes to immigration, we know also some new policies taking effect. Give us a rundown for where we are with immigration.
Sure. Well, I think it'd be good to start with DACA, and I wanted to let people know that they can still renew their DACA if they have it. At this time, there are no new DACA applications being processed, but if someone has DACA, that they can renew it, and we can provide assistance with that process. And that is because the court injunction is still in place, preventing the government from ending the current DACA process, and we're hoping that we'll be victorious and be able to keep the process in place until a new administration can find some way to create a path for citizenship for these young people.
And currently, no new applications are being taken.
Right. To be clear, no new applications. So if you don't have DACA, you cannot apply for the first time. But if you have it, you can renew it.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about DACA, obviously a lot of people are concerned, saying that this administration, of course, has not yielded to immigrants and been faithful, or I should say friendly towards immigrants. When we look now, any possibility on your end do you see of this turning around anytime soon, absent a new president?
Right. Well, we believe the injunction should stay in place because while admittedly the administration did have the authority to end the program, as has been previously stated, all they needed to do was give a legitimate reason for doing so, just something that actually made sense, and they have not been able to do so, and that's why the injunctions have been granted, and that's because the courts have seen through the sort of fancy language that they've used to say, justify the ending of it, to realize that it was just an unfair move by this administration.
You got new policies, new administration, well, not new administration, new policies and procedures taking place starting in 2020. Let's go a little bit over some of these things that we can be paying attention to.
Sure. Well, one of the other most current topics that people should be aware of was the administration's attempt to end fee waivers. You can apply for a fee waiver for many applications, such as naturalization, such as a fee waiver for renewing your legal permanent resident identification. I mean, just simply to renew your green card is approximately somewhere around $500. It's just an ID. Your status doesn't end. It's just the ID. $500 for this community. That's a tremendous amount. Naturalization, that's up somewhere around between $600 and $700. Again, tremendous burden for our community. The administration attempted to end these fee waivers, and again, we were able to win in our challenges to these attempts and have an injunction in place. So again, at this time, fee waiver, your applicants are still eligible to apply for fee waivers, and we help with those applications, and we help with the fee waivers as well at Bronx Works.
Talking a little bit about immigration reform, right? Comprehensive immigration reform. A lot of thoughts about where the future lies. How does this lie? Where do you see it going?
Hopefully, we can get an administration in place that will create a path to citizenship for a lot of the people that at this time are essentially stuck. I mean, the laws in place now makes it difficult for a lot of people, even if they've been here for 10 or 20 years, to qualify, even with family members, because of just very narrow restrictions that just are sort of a catch-all for large groups. Something as simple as not having evidence of being processed as at an airport or a port of entry. And so some subtle changes could make really drastic differences to the lives of many people that are hoping to obtain some sort of legal status here in the U.S.
When you look at what's coming across your door right now, obviously the numbers continue to increase, I take it. What are you hearing from people, and what are the basic needs that are being asked for as people come across your door now?
Right. Well, first of all, as I said before, there was a lot of concern in the community for the fee waivers, and again, those are still in place. There's a lot of the community looking to naturalize. I mean, they've been here for a long time. They want to be part of the community, and naturalization would allow them to have a more permanent sort of status, not be as concerned with the immigration issues. And again, to highlight, it'll make it possible for the community to vote, which is a very important in the upcoming elections for our communities to get out and vote and be able to vote and be eligible to vote. And so they should take the opportunity and the services that are offered and naturalize and take part in the election process.
We'll go back and talk a little bit about DACA in a few seconds, because a lot still is there's a lot of conversation still goes around, and recipients of DACA, people ask about what is possibly an equal compromise.
Sure.
What would we define as an equal compromise? What do you define as an equal compromise for those who are dealing with DACA?
Right. Well, I would go way back to President Obama's administration and his proposals. As liberal as he is viewed as being on immigration, I mean, we should realize that even his proposal was pretty strenuous. He would have granted these young people sort of work permits for almost 10 years, where they would have had to have remained here, work, prove that they're contributing to our communities, and only then would they have been able to shift from this sort of temporary work ID to a green card. And then even after that, once you have a green card, it takes 5 years before you can apply for citizenship. So I mean, even under his proposal, it would have been this very long, drawn-out process. This current administration has no pathway, no proposals whereby these DACA recipients could achieve some sort of permanent status.
Arturo Lopez, Director of Legal Services at Bronx Works, our guest, talking about immigration. When we return, we're going to talk a little bit more about a couple of things: birth tourism, birthright citizenship. That's up next here on Perspectives. Back here on Perspectives, our guest in the studio, Arturo Lopez, Director of Legal Services for Bronx Works. We're talking about immigration and the year 2020. As we know, a lot of things are happening in New York State by way of laws and changes of laws, but also on the federal front, immigration continues to be a hot button issue for a lot of Bronxites, a lot of people across New York City. So we're just trying to get a little bit of clarity as to some of the new laws and things that are actually taking place, and then also giving some people some awareness as to some definitions and some terminology that's being thrown around that you might hear and you might want to become more connected to. And so, as we talked a little bit before we went to break, talk a little bit about birthright citizenship. And first of all, for people who don't know what the law is, explain it. But then there's also a concern that birthright citizenship could see an end. So let's talk and unpack what birthright citizenship first is. First off.
Sure. And so that can be broken down very simply. Essentially, if a child is born on U.S. soil, then that child is a citizen of the United States, period, regardless of the legal status of the parents, regardless of how the parents may have come into the United States. So any child born here is a citizen. I know there has been talk of ending that, and I feel it's mostly certain parties in the government trying to create fear in the immigrant communities, because birthright citizenship is something that has a very long history, and to change that would be a very drastic change to the fundamental beliefs and that this government was founded on, and that the law was structured around it. It goes back a couple of hundred years. So I don't foresee it ending. I think it's a lot of attempts to create fear in the community. But children that are born here are citizens, regardless of the status that their parents may have or how they got here.
Talked to several lawmakers in Washington, D.C., particularly about this one particular issue. Their fear, their question is, whether or not that it comes up and it would have to come before a vote. They said, but it would take a lot to come before a vote. And they echoed some of the same sentiments you said, that particularly a lot of fear-mongering.
Yes.
And probably won't even come to pass. And if we're talking about it even coming to pass, it's so way down the line.
Right. It would be so far off that I don't think it really would have a chance of making any impact.
Let's talk about American children who are born to illegal immigrants. should they be worried about these immigration laws?
Well, unfortunately, someone who does not have a legal status in the U.S. is subject to being removed. Now, they do have to go before a judge, and it can be a long process, and there are defenses that can be raised. So it is a concern, and we have seen, some unfair targeting of the communities, like the immigration being present in courts when people are addressing family court matters or criminal court matters, that it may be unfair targeting. But my advice would be that there are a lot of service providers, especially here in New York, that provide defense, and people with immigration questions or issues should not be scared to seek out these service providers. And they should not be under the belief that because it's a free service provider, that the services are somehow inferior to some private law firm. I think you'll find, and I've found in my experience in this field, and I truly believe that the lawyers that are working in the nonprofit field are much more driven and committed and believe much more wholeheartedly in serving the communities than maybe what you might find in the private sector.
Walk me through this a little bit, because you're the new legal services director at Bronx Works, and
Yes.
for those people who don't know, Bronx Works does a lot of work with immigration, and also you've had some restructuring in your own organization.
Yeah.
So let's get up to speed. So for people who need immigration services, we want to take a moment to just take that time out.
Sure.
And as I said before, congratulations. But
Thank you.
share a little bit more about how things have been restructured and what
Sure.
people can actually take advantage of.
Sure. So and as we talked about in my past appearances, I was a supervising attorney for the immigration program, and Bronx Works immigration program has close to a 20-year history with the agency. Now, recently we have been awarded some new grants and programs by the city and the state because they saw the good works we were doing, and we've increased our legal program and reached out and broadened into other areas. We now have 2 immigration attorneys and they're paralegals. We have a crime victim services attorney who will assist people who have been the victim of a crime with issues that are related to that. We're not the city, we're not prosecuting that, but if you need additional assistance, if you've been the victim of identity theft, we can assist with restoring credit. If you need assistance with an order of protection because you were in a situation that involved domestic violence, we can assist with that. And then we're also soon to be adding on a benefits and housing attorney to assist people who are facing eviction and who have issues with their public benefits. And so that will be our team of attorneys, and I've been with the organization the longest. I'm now the director of legal services, and will be overseeing all the attorneys in the Bronx Works legal program.
Yeah. Talk to me about how things have changed throughout the course of the years. I mean, obviously, for you've been around for a few years
Right.
and have boots on the ground, but the immigration landscape has changed, particularly here in our borough. When you're talking about 2 million people in one borough,
Right.
A lot of them are actually dealing with immigration issues.
Right, and part of that relates to the creation of the new legal division in our additional programs, in that we find more and more, as things have become more complex and the atmosphere has become more hostile to immigrants and to our community, that clients don't have simply one need. They don't come in and just need one thing. They don't need just one form filled out. They come in and they have some really complex issues to deal with, a lot of things going on in their life and in their community, and they need a lot more. And so we're providing immigration assistance and assistance with a lot more complex issues, but also linking with and connecting with our other attorneys and our other programs to provide much more holistic assistance to ensure that all of the clients' legal needs are met, and that we can really make a total difference in their life.
All right, Arturo Lopez. Gonna stay with us. We got our final segment, closing thoughts from Arturo when we return right after this. And we're back here on Perspectives, continuing and closing out with Arturo Lopez, Director of Legal Services over at Bronx Works, and certainly have enjoyed our time of sharing here. Let's talk it out. You know, got the rest of the year coming up. What do you think we can expect, and what do we see happening in the future?
Well, you know, there's still the fee waiver issue to be litigated. There's still the crisis at the border is ongoing. People who do qualify for asylum are not being allowed to remain in the U.S. while their application is being processed, as had always been done in the past. And who knows what other types of executive orders they may try to implement. You know, at this point, maybe their attention may be drawn away from immigration, what with everything else going on. But we still know that immigration is a focus of the current administration.
Yeah, a lot of people have concerns too, saying the fact that even with the war going on, some things could happen by way of immigration. Because a lot of people are focused on the war, and it gives you an opportunity to do some things in other areas, and that's what we know some people on the Hill have said. A little worry there too?
You know, there's always concerns of what they may try to slip past without anyone noticing. There's always small sort of procedural changes that they can make that can have a pretty drastic effect. They're always looking to do that, so we're always keeping an eye out. But as always, you know, the immigration legal service provider community is always watching and ready to make challenges to anything that the government tries to implement that we feel is a sort of unfair to the community.
All right. How'd you feel about 2019? You spent a lot of time doing what?
Well, you know, I was said there was a lot of trying to combat fear and educate the community more so than ever before, and a lot of trying to help people naturalize. There's been a big increase in the number of people seeking to naturalize because they are aware that they need to do that, and that is great. But also, there's a lot of administrative hurdles. The process is taking a lot longer. Part of it is because the government is dragging its feet to drag it out, potentially past the elections, so that these big group of new voters won't potentially be able to vote. So it's try to get your application in as early as possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave you you get the final word, giving some final advice to Bronxites and those across the city who may be struggling with some immigration or some questions, what would you like them to know?
I'd like them to know that, first of all, don't be fearful. Seek out the relevant and accurate information. There are a lot of service providers that are here and are willing and able to help. In the Bronx, BronxWorks is here. Don't hesitate to contact us. And as I said, we've got a lot of new services that could potentially make a big difference in clients' lives, even outside of immigration. And other than that, come in, talk to us. We can provide you with a consultation and let you know, at the very least, give you a truthful and accurate picture of what's going on and where you stand.
All right, well, Arturo Lopez, definitely want to thank you for coming and sharing with us, and Director of Legal Services over at BronxWorks. BronxWorks has been a great partner in sharing legal information and that of immigration, and so thanks for having you. Thanks for, I should say, staying with us and being with us, and congratulations again on the promotion.
Thank you again. Thanks for having me.
All right, listen, now here's his information. Arturo Lopez and Director of Legal Services, and all you gotta do is check him out. 1130 Grand Concourse, and the number is 718-508-3091. Once again, the number is 718-508-3091. Email address alopez@bronxworks.org. And always, if you want more information about BronxWorks, just go to bronxworks.org. That about wraps it up for another edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless. Make sure you take the time to share your perspective with somebody else. You never know, it just might make a difference in someone else's life. Take care.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your
Coming to you from our BronxNet studios, 4 new shows highlighting some of the best of the Bronx has to offer. We sit down with political leaders on In the District and discuss local legislation, events, and issues. See how the community and business come together with The Bronx Now on BronxNet. Nosotros features leaders from a Latino community. Meet those who are moving to make a difference in public service, business, arts, and culture. Looking for new and exciting dining experiences? Then you'll want to savor the Bronx and try new restaurants and eateries that fill the borough with delicious dishes. We have it all, so experience the Bronx in new and fresh ways on BronxNet.